I just got a lot on the line here. I mean, I screwed up my whole life. That's why I need to get to the moon. I go up to the moon, I'm a hero.
Well, I'm with you, Cap.
Let's show NASA that we know what we're doing.
You guys are all credited as writers on the show, along with Jonathan Kreisel. Sort of what was the genesis for it, and how did you sort of like hammer out the beats?
Shall I take this?
Yeah.
I was up in Portland doing the Portland sketch comedy show. I cannot recall the name that Fred was a part of. Ugh, what the hell was it?
Portlandia?
Yep. And Fred and I were just having a blast between takes, just laughing and doing stupid bits. And I was texting with John. I was like, I'm up in Portland with Fred, and God, it's so fun. We should. And John's like, well, Fred and I have been trying to do something for years, and that kind of spurred this text chain between the three of us. Like, if we had a show, what would the show be? What could we do that could kind of capture the sense of humor we have, and what could kind of put us in a room together, literally, like, or a dome together, like, and so that started the conversation about what really coming from this really organic place of we just love we love making each other laugh, and John kind of tapped into this idea of these places where people go to simulate certain experiences, and going to Antarctica to, be isolated, and just for the idea of isolation.
The crazy thing about this whole program is like, it's very necessary. You can't like go to Mars and figure out how to live on Mars once you get there. So as silly as and like make believe as it seems, there are people doing it in Utah, Hawaii. Like now there's 4 different countries putting lunar programs together. So we just loved the kind of balance of the seriousness and the nobility of a space program with really inept, flawed people, when those two things bump together.
Right.
So, yeah, and really it was, like Tim just said, it was sort of an excuse for the three of us to hang out. And then when John Kreisel came into the mix, someone that we've also, all three of us have worked together before. So it kind of felt like planning like a great party,
Yeah.
Get all of our favorite people there and do all the stuff we love.
But we wanted to make something that had quality to it and felt that it wasn't just a joke, that there was some stakes, and it felt like you knew who these people were. So, that we could have done Tim, John, and Fred hanging out, making each other laugh for, the internet or something. But we wanted this to feel like, a good looking show that people would, care about, I guess.
And also there's the comedy aspect of it, but one of the things we were really relying on John Kreisel for too was to have a sophisticated visual look to the show. That's one of the great delicious things about space movies, is how austere and beautiful the imagery can be, the high contrast whites and blacks and all of it. So yeah, that was another thing that got us all excited about doing it.
Fred, where did sort of Dr. Hanai Jr. come from? Like, how do you think he sort of like landed in this program? And like, what did his dad lay on him that landed him here?
That just came from, when we were trying to come up with, it was a little easier to come up with the other characters, like what their characteristics were. And somewhere in there, we had this idea that that his dad is someone who worked for NASA. I always just like there's something funny about family name. I don't know what it is, just like carrying on the family name, doing what my family did. I'm a blank. I'm an Armisen, or I'm a doctor, I'm a Hanai, as a sort of defense of what, why you chose your vocation. I just like the idea of family lineage being a motivator.
It's true. Regardless of the information being presented, I have an identity that requires
I come from this, that somehow my genetics are supposed to dictate what that is. So it just came from there. And also it felt a little bit less, it felt a little more scientific. I think we needed one of the characters to have more of a real scientific background that wasn't just education.
Yeah, you also needed one of the characters that was kind of like, why is, he filled out the application and they were like, oh yeah, this guy might be good. This guy just wants to like talk about God on the moon. You know,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah, this would have like a more of an official purpose to it.
Yeah, and Fred is so great. I mean, we're all trying to play to our strengths as comedians and actors. So, you know, Fred is very funny in a lot of ways, but one of the ways he's really funny is in a very droll kind of sarcastic, like, you know, I'm not buying your bullshit kind of character. And that dynamic needs to exist between these three guys. John's definitely the dreamer, and you know, we never say never, and we're gonna beat the odds, and there has to be like a voice of reason even within the unreasonableness amongst the three of them.
I will say the picture of his family makes me laugh every time they show it. Like, I think it's so funny.
Why would someone with that many kids choose to be away for an indefinite amount of time?
It's sort of, you might be, you know, that's like sort of almost a joke of like, get me out of here. I'll go to the moon to get away from the 12 little kids here. I mean, that was just like, I think that's the first time in the show you go, oh, this show can be very absurd and silly by just showing that picture of that many children. You know?
And Cap maybe should never go back to Hawaii, or if he does,
He can't go back. He'd probably be arrested immediately. There's a lot of enemies on Oahu. Yeah, he's a flawed character, you know, but as flawed and as dumb as these guys are often, you know, they make big mistakes over and over. But as flawed as they are, I feel like they're really relatable too. I mean, all of us at a certain moment in life, maybe many moments in life, are not capable of the thing we're being asked to do. You know, especially just starting a new job or whatever. Everyone feels like, I'm an imposter. What am I doing? Like, I don't know how to do this. But you try anyway, and you persevere. And in some ways, Cap is like an embodiment of that American ideal of like, well, I might be a flawed person, but you know what? I got willpower, and I'm going to try to just push this forward. That is what those original astronaut guys were like, you know? There was no guarantees about anything. They were making it up as they went along. All they had was their chutzpah. There's
also some argument that, like, let's say we inevitably destroy this planet and everyone has to move to wherever, whatever next planet we take over. Not everyone is going to be a rocket scientist on those new planets. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Even now, most people that are astronauts are not rocket scientists. They're not pilots even. There are other types of scientists. They've moved the job of astronauts to the places they're going as opposed to the transit to get there, you know? And I think that's another unconscious appeal of the show is like all of us, I think somewhere in our subconscious are feeling like, maybe it's time to get out of this hotel. You know, maybe, you know what I mean? Like maybe our future is not indefinite here on Earth. Maybe we should be thinking about a plan B.
It's definitely it's in our DNA to survive. And that's what we've been doing since life existed. So obviously, you know, survival is going to at some point require leaving planet Earth, because this is, you know, all temporary. So I think even in the work we do, it's really kind of maybe a little bit esoteric, but even in the comedy we do, there's this desire to like talk about this idea of moving the species or you know, off Earth.
It's funny, people have been dreaming of this long before we had anywhere near the technology to enact it, you know. Right. Remember that Neil Young song, I've been dreaming of about the silver spaceship going off, taking people away from the dying Earth. Like, it wasn't really in the cards then, but it is now.
Yeah.
Like,
would you guys go to the moon? And with what, like, limitations or stipulations? Like, oh, I would go, but I'd have to be able to bring my family. Or I would go, but I'd have to be able to come back.
I would go if it was a very slow trip. I don't think I can handle all that G-force. When I look at those astronaut training things where they put them in the centrifugal device where they spin them around, like, I could not do that. But if it was like a blimp type situation that just slowly got you there, I could probably do that. And then if there was, you know, a farm up there where you could actually eat food that was similar to the food you might have at home, I'd consider it for a little while with those stipulations.
I think I would do it if 200,000 people had already gone. So that it's really routine. And there's even a guide there who's bored, who's like, yeah, get on here, you sit on here, and then we go up and you know, you just don't worry about it. I know it's a bit of a shock when you land. Just, I like the feeling of something that's been done a lot, so that it's almost boring.
I would be worried you get up there and you're like, oh man, this is awesome. Yeah. But it is, you know, it's like when you go see the Grand Canyon, it's like, awesome. Yeah. Glad I saw this. And now I'm going to go to the hotel and watch TV.
Yeah. And then go try to make your way back.
Yeah. So we have maybe an idea for another season where we do go to the moon, and it's like what you said, Fred, it's boring. And you're like, all this for this? Like, I'm basically doing the same thing I was doing back at Earth.
And they all have an identity crisis then because they put so much stock into getting there.
I was working in Chile in January, and one trip you could do there is you can go to Easter Island. It is, because it's part of Chile. It is so far away. It is like a regular flight, this little island in the middle of the ocean, to see the statues.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of entertained it, like, oh, should we go? And you just end up going like, once you get there, you look at it.
Yeah.
It's an ignorant thing for me to say, I know.
I'm just,
but what happens in that full day of like...
Like, you can see really good pictures of it. You can see 4K video.
I'm kind of okay. I'm kind of okay with that.
How long is the flight? Is it like over a couple hours?
Oh yeah, I think it's 4 hours, which I think is a lot. I think is a lot to go to the middle of the ocean. Then you're at a hotel, and then you're just talking about it. Yeah, I saw the statues today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. All right, well, we're on our way back now.
That was like a joke I did when they were talking about all the statues coming down earlier this year, you know, for like Christopher Columbus, or it's like, yeah, they used to have statues so you could see what those people looked like, but now you can just look on you can look online.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of having a statue of Christopher Columbus?
What's the point of, this is going to sound like stand-up, but what's the point of statues anyway? Does anyone really love statues? Honestly?
Who cares? Yeah.
I've never been like, oh my God, this statue.
I don't think.
But the Michelangelo.
Oh.
But once you develop
the David?
But once you develop photography and videography and film,
that's what I mean.
Then that takes that. You don't need that anymore. You don't
come on, guys.
Representation.
I just have to stand up for the artists of the world right here. That's one of the magical things that human beings can do is reproduce the images of themselves. It's like
they do with
I will say the one with like the veil over the face, that's pretty impressive. If you look at that
Those are impressive, yes. Those are impressive as a craft.
I'm not criticizing the talent that goes into making sculpture, believe me. I think it's incredibly important work.
I think you also argue now.
No, I'm just going to say, but to your point, when there's like cloth in marble is very impressive. I don't know how they
You would be so surprised how easy it is to do that. It looks hard, but it's very easy.
You think the guy's like,
Tim did his own Pietà. He did his own Pietà sculpture in the back. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's actually really easy. I can teach you guys in 10 minutes. Sorry, Mark. This is what you get when you get the three of us together.
Well, I went to Italy. I went to Florence, and I went and looked at all those statues. I booed. I was the only person booing. In the museum, boo. Boo!
I can't hear you. I guess for the museum staff to hear that.
It's not nice. Not certainly I'd bring up in an interview.
I think arguably the reason a lot of people go to Easter Island or the Grand Canyon or to see those statues now is to like take their photo with those statues. Or like if you're going to go to the moon, it's like, here's me on the moon. It's like the ultimate clout photo or image.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Last question, I guess, is what's the best Beatles song?
Wait till I come back to your side.
Incorrect.
We'll forget the tears you cried.
Honestly, it's all too much. Always moves me. Always moves me in like the present tense. Mm-hmm. Like I listen to it. I don't hear it like, oh, I remember that song. I hear It's All Too Much, and I'm actively into the song all the way through. It's insane.
I feel like isn't that a George Harrison song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God, it's
Oh,
so
Beatles
good.
song. George Harrison.
Well,
I
that's
guess
funny.
maybe the
because
question is,
I
if
would
you're gonna
never.
go ahead.
I would never pick one, but I did have to do this for something, and one of the ones I picked was the Ballad of John and Yoko, because it's not the Beatles, it's John and Paul making that together, and the fact that John and Paul made that song together, and it's sort of about the end of the relationship of John and Paul, even though it's not really expressed literally. It's really about this new chapter that's about to happen in his life, or is starting to happen. It's also just an unbelievably catchy tune and a great sounding record, because that band are ultimately, like, as much as I love George Harrison and Ringo Starr, that dynamic between those two guys was that's like the heart and soul of that group.
Having listened to every Beatles album, the only one that I never got burnt out on, and I'm still not burnt out on, is the White Album. There's something about like the explorations they were doing.
Too many novelty songs on that record.
No, I love it. That's my favorite of their albums.
Too many
White
novelty
Album is
songs.
so good.
Julia,
Also,
great.
Dear
Love
Prudence is on the White Album.
Love
Dear
it.
Prudence.
But I don't want to hear Piggies. I don't want to hear Wild Honey Pie.
What?
I don't want to hear Honey Pie.
No, you need it. You need all
I
those things.
know.
It's like a sketch show. You need, like,
Yeah, but it doesn't have a lot.
it balances all that stuff out. You don't want it to all be like, hits and
We're
hits.
not giving you we're not giving the A/B Club a Fred, Tim, and John Beatles podcast. Don't fall into this trap, Fred.